Off for a wander today in Clocaenog Forest. Just a couple of dozen miles west of Llangollen, where we're staying. The wood's very, very moist and green. There's a little lake in the forest here. Look at that. If we're lucky, we might find some mushrooms. Superbly quiet. All I can hear is the rain on the leaves of the beech trees. Lots and lots of very well developed bilberry bushes here. These don't appear to have been grazed down, so that indicates to me that there probably isn't a deer population here, or else these would be just grazed down to nothing. Right, so can I find in amongst this thicket of bilberries here a berry to show you? It's really too late in the season for them, but oh, there's a rather little shriveled one. Usually when you find them growing as thick as this, there's always some plant that's a little bit further behind the others, but it really doesn't look very hopeful. Eva, what are you doing? Well, here's a fungus, but not edible. This is a artist's bracket. Ganoderma. I will have a look over this fallen tree though, actually, because there might be oyster mushrooms or something else on here. I can see a different fungus over there, still not an edible one though. Oh, and we've got giant polypore here, or blackening polypore. This is one people often mistake for chicken of the woods. This is not chicken of the woods, it's not nearly yellow or orange enough. This is, I think, giant polypore. Spore print is white by the look of it, because there's spores on the upper surface of the brackets underneath there. But I think this one's edible in the young stages, but not worthwhile at this stage yet. I would say blackening polypore based on what's happening here at the edges of this one. Yeah, I see some more artist brackets. I'm just going to have a look at this fallen tree here. So we've got more artist brackets here, and I don't know what this is, some kind of encrusting fungus. Can't see anything else on here. It's a shame, because this is the kind of tree where you probably would find oyster mushrooms if it had, you know, if the spores were in the vicinity. Just going to go and leave the main track here for a moment, because I saw a flash of yellow over here which could indicate chanterelle mushrooms, but I don't think it does. No, it's not. It's a little stag's horn, I think, is it called? I'm not actually seeing an awful lot of fungus. That is my normal experience for a coniferous wood. I don't find them to be so productive as a broadleafed woodland. That's not the same in every part of the world, and we're not in my usual place here. So yeah, we'll keep our eyes peeled. I was going to say I don't know how long it's been. I mean, obviously the forest is very wet at the moment, and I was going to say I don't know how long it's been wet for. Maybe it's been really dry, but looking at how green everything is, I would say it probably has had a fair bit of precipitation this summer. Back home in Dorset, I think everything looks like Arizona, or it did until this week. Actually, I understand it's been raining back at home as well, so things might have started greening up by the time we get back, but it's been a very dry summer back at home. I see a couple of larger fungi here. Let's have a look at these. I think we're looking at a russula here. It's a better specimen here. That's nice. Nice and firm. It's got a kind of viscid cap. There's two here, a little one and a larger one. I'm fairly sure that is a species of russula. Well, there's another one up here. And possibly edible. A lot of the russulas are edible, and none of them are deadly. Some of them will make you sick. And all of the ones that are inedible, for various reasons, have a hot or peppery or otherwise unpleasant acrid taste. So for russulas, as long as you know you are looking at russulas, which is an identification skill in itself, as long as you know you're looking at russulas, then in theory you can taste test to find out if you've got an edible one. I don't really like doing that, and since I don't know what these are, I'm going to leave them be. But their appearance is a good sign. The fact that we're seeing them is a good sign. It really tipped it down on the way here, and I wasn't sure we were actually going to get any walking done. It was hammering down on the way out here, but the rain is quite localised. As you can see, there's a patch of blue sky up there and over there, so I think we're all right. This plant here with the pink flowers is rosebay willow herb. I keep meaning to get around to making cordial with the flowers of this plant, but I think they might have to wait for next year now. Back at home, this plant has finished flowering, but here in the slightly cooler and definitely more moist conditions of North Wales, it's still going strong with its flowering. And as I say, I'm seeing lots of bilberry foliage here, so if we'd been here a month earlier, I'm sure we'd have come home with a big tub of bilberries. There are blackberries around. It's not a very good specimen, but there are plenty of blackberries. They are looking a bit mushy now because the rain will tend to turn them and need water to swell them up. But at this point, they're starting to look a bit mouldy and mushy, probably not worth picking. And it's the moisture that will do that. Found some common rush here. Really nice long ones. I think I'll pick 5 of these and make one of my little rush dollies. So I'll just show you how this works. So taking the bottom ends, I'll just take off the dead sort of leathery bit that's on the end there, the outer leaf off of all of these. This will make them a little bit more flexible at the bottom end. There we go. So I've got 5 pieces. You can do it with any number more than 4, I think. And I think it probably helps to be an odd number. And I'm just going to bend those a little bit like that just to soften them up. And then I'm going to tie an overhand knot in this end. So just passing all of those ends through a loop. And then carefully, if I can, let's just bend it a little bit more, make it flexible. So pass those ends through its own loop and then pull tight to make just an overhand knot like that. Then we splay out these 5 pieces with the knot upwards, and then we just pick one and pass it over two of the other weavers. Okay, and then the one we've just passed, which is there, right, and then the one we've just gone over, we pick that up and pass that over two, and again the one we've just crossed here, pick it up and go over two, and just repeat like that. And after a while a basket-like thing will start to form. You can possibly see it already. So I'm just passing it over, just picking up the one we've crossed here. See that there? So that's the one I've just moved. It's gone over this one and that one. And then I'm going to pick up the one I've just crossed and pass it over two more. And rotate and pick this one up, pass that over two. So you're always just picking up the one you've just crossed and passing it over the next two in sequence all the way around. And after a while it starts to behave itself rather nicely, and you get into a little rhythm like this. So again, let's just have a close look at what I'm doing here so you can see what I'm doing. So this is the one I've just moved. I've passed it over this one here and that one there, and then I'm going to pick up the one I've just passed and do the same. Pass it over two, pass it over two, all the way around. Just keep on going. And that's what starts to form, a kind of basket type of dolly. You can do this with corn stalks, and it's called a corn dolly. I'm doing it with reeds or rushes, and so I suppose this is a rush dolly. And there are more complex patterns you can do than this. So this is a really simple one. And after a while, it'll bow out and sort of become bulbous. And then as the reeds thin down, it will tend to, on its own, narrow back in. But you can control that to a certain extent. So when you go take this one over, if you put it outside of there and then bring that one around the outside, it'll get wider. If you take it slightly to the inside of that one, you're making the structure narrower. So we're just going to keep going and using up the remaining rushes. It always seems a little bit like magic, the way these things form this beautiful, neat spiral from such a simple rule of just picking up a reed and passing it over its two neighbours and repeating. But it is just an iteration of a rule that creates the structure. So in a minute we're going to get to a point where it starts to be too narrow to work. And what I will then do is just pinch off the ends of the reeds and push them back down the middle of the dolly to finish it off. We're nearly there. So yeah, I think we're probably at the point now to finish off. So I'm going to take this one I've just passed over and just pinch off the end there and then pass it back down into the middle. That locks off this loose one that I've just done. But now I'm going to go back round the dolly and just do the same with all the other ends. Just pinch them off about, 5 centimeters long and push them down inside. Sometimes if it's a bit tight here, you can find a bit of a twig or something, and that makes it a bit easier to open up that hole to push those ends down inside. And there we go. That's how to make a rush dolly from 5 little pieces of rush that I've just picked in the forest. Now I like to leave these somewhere for somebody else to discover. So I could leave it here, except this is not a very well frequented path. So what I'll probably do is I'll carry this back to the car park and I'll leave it near the information sign for somebody else to discover and perhaps wander about. I'm just amazed at how much bilberry foliage there is here and how tall and shrubby it is. I bet this would be an amazing place to pick bilberries. Perhaps we'll have to come back here in mid-July, mid to late July I think is the best time. We're now in the start of September, it's really no hope of finding them. Maybe a bit further north you might find them still. Or maybe the season's completely over there. This is a raspberry cane. So we can tell it's not a blackberry by the fact that it has naked stems. Sometimes the stems are a little bit bristly at near the growing tip, but mostly smooth stems. So lots of raspberries here as well. Of course, raspberry season is very well over. That would have been July probably. Here comes the rain again. Now I know some of my viewers have a particular fondness for moss, so here is a mossy moment, just for you. The return leg of our journey is through a beech forest, so different kind of biome. Different potential to see things. I see something interesting over it. Oh, it's just a dead leaf of a fern, of a bracken fern. I thought it was a mushroom. I'll keep hoping. A very ancient wall here. And yeah, it's started to rain again. Well, we're coming up to a different car park by the look of it, before we get back on the trail. Oh, it's not a car park, it's a pond, or a lake. I don't think this is the same lake, although it might be connected. So there's a marshy bit up there. I don't think this is the same lake as the one we saw earlier. Oh no, I think it is the same one. We've walked around in a big circle, haven't we? Yeah. Yeah, it's the same pond. There is this strange place, which looks sort of like a chapel, but also maybe sort of like somebody's house. I'm not really sure what this is. Gamekeeper's cottage, perhaps? So, thanks for joining us in this walk through Clocaenog Forest. It's a lovely, peaceful, green, leafy, mossy place. Just the sort of place to take a very nice, gentle stroll, even in the rain. And it feels very restorative. So I hope that's been interesting. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.